Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching The Political Vigilante. I am here with Rosie Tran, the Crypto Kitty, and I wanted to talk to you, first of all, about sort of what is going on in the state of Bitcoin and crypto. So Bitcoin just hit
35,000.
First time in 16 months.
Everything's up 10 to 15% across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So unfortunately, even though I believe in Bitcoin and I believe in decentralized wealth for all people, and I'm anti-Wall Street, crypto doing well is actually bad as far as society, because it actually means that people are losing faith in the US dollar. It means that they're losing faith in the traditional banking system. So there's a huge, it's a positive and a negative, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people don't understand what inflation is. Like, we hear these like terms like, oh, there's inflation. So right now, the current inflation rate the government is claiming is like 7 or 8%. But you go to the gas pump, or you go to the grocery store, or you look at a cost of living or rent or a house,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like 10, 15, 20%.
Well, that needs to be addressed too, because it's like the media and the government and whatever political party is in power, they always do this. They always say, but now it's worse than ever. They'll say, oh, there's new jobs report. There's more jobs, or inflation is a lot lower than it was. That doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything
until, like you say, you regular people, we go to the grocery store, you buy gas or whatever, and you're like, oh, this is way more than it used to be.
It's way more, but a lot of people don't understand what that means. So they just see prices going up and they go, oh, things are more expensive. And what that means from a crypto perspective is that is how much the US dollar is being devalued. So the US dollar is being valued on average 10 to 15% a year, which means that, Graham, you're working. Let's say you work. We do a comedy show together and you get paid $100 for the show. Let's just say. We know you get paid way more than $100 a show.
$1 million a show. I get $1 million a show. That's why I'm in a Russian mob dance club selling cocaine through Rosie's ears. That's how.
So let's say you get paid $100 for the show. Well, really, your $100 is only worth $90.
Right.
Because of that 10 to 15% devaluing of the currency. And so that's where crypto is really important, because you want this digital asset that's going to hold the value. That's what Bitcoin is. It's an experiment by Satoshi and all these cypherpunks to see if we can separate ourselves from the traditional banking system because of this corruption that happens. And so the US government's coming in just like other US governments and other governments and banks. And they're like, hey, we're going to try to control the inflation by raising interest rates. Well, guess what? They've raised interest rates to an all-time high, and it hasn't done anything. It hasn't done anything.
Which is scary. I want to interject this, because that could mean they go, oh, let's raise them some more. Let's get them up to double-digit numbers like there were in the 80s when the interest rates were at 12 and 14 and 15% or whatever. That's scary to me.
It is really scary, because people are not going to be able to afford houses. And the reason that people are not going to be able to afford houses and other goods and services and commodities is because inflation is happening. So that means the cost of goods and services and things are going up. However, their attempt to control the price of it isn't stopping it. And so that's making the cost of money more and more expensive, which stifles the economy. And also it's hurting average people more than, the billionaires and millionaires and things like that. If you're going to buy a jug of milk and it's $5 instead of $3, or a gallon of gas and it's $7 instead of whatever, but you're still making $50,000 a year or $40,000 a year, that's going to hurt a lot more than someone that's making $10 million.
Oh yeah, because it was oh, boo-hoo, my $10 million is only worth $9,900,000.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't mean anything. But now my $50,000 is only worth $40,000.
Exactly.
That's significant. And the other things we should be pointing out here is all of these, when it's like interest rates, it affects the economy and regular people on so many levels. Let's say you have a little house, a 2-3 bedroom house, and you have a little garage or something, and you're like, we want to get a home equity line of credit for whatever, $50,000. We've got $200,000 in equity, let's say. And in that 50 grand, we're going to convert our garage into an Airbnb or something, or rent it out or whatever make it into an income property. Well, that $50,000 line of credit is going to be, the monthly payments are going to be way more if the interest rates are 7 or 8 or 9%. So you're probably not going to do that. So who loses out? You lose out. The construction people are not getting the money. Like all of these, think of how many jobs I just talked about in getting in a regular American family just gets a little $20,000 to $50,000 home equity line of credit to make improvements on their home. Home Depot doesn't get that money. The contractors don't get that money. And then if you turn it into like a revenue stream, all of that doesn't happen now.
But there's another layer to that, Graham, which people don't talk about, which is that the average person has to pay property taxes, income taxes, sales tax, all these things across the board. So say you make 50,000 and now it's 40,000 because of inflation. Well, don't forget that, you have to pay 10% off the bat on everything you purchase, or 9%. In California, it's 9% for sales tax. So if you
well, let's be clear here. In California, in Los Angeles, depending on the city, where Santa Monica, like each little town can add its extra little percent. Santa Monica sales tax is 10%. The total amount of, because it's like 8 3/4 or 9% from the state. Then like the LA County puts on like 0.5%. Then
so now your 50,000 is worth 40,000 is worth 30,000. Okay, so let me tell you how you're being raped. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Hard.
Bend over and take it.
Yeah, but it's freedom. It's freedom rape.
So that's the additional layer that no one talks about, is the fact that there's sales tax. And of course we need taxes to pay for services, but that doesn't actually solve then the problem. So there's an additional problem on that, which is the cost of living is high because there is a constraint on supply and demand. So there's not enough properties, or there's not enough whatever. So those problems are not solved either. So that exacerbates, which is why they've raised interest rates, but property values are still going up. So now, I live in a working class neighborhood. I do own a home. My home has gone up over double, which sounds like a good thing, but it's not, because now I'm trapped. I can't move up. I can't move anywhere, because any house I buy is going to cost literally $1 million.
And the interest rate I'm sure you guys bought at is way lower than if you sold your house today. Again, this is why the home prices are stuck in this weird spot. Because let's say you bought a house 3, 4, 5 years ago and your interest rate was 2 or 3%.
You're not leaving. You're trapped.
You're not leaving, because you're going to sell. Even if you have equity like you guys have, you're going to buy a house that's going to be way more expensive. And now you're paying 7% interest.
And now you're paying more. So my mortgage payment is $2,500. If I was to get the exact same house right now for the same price I paid 5, 6 years ago, my payment would be $5,000 or $6,000 for the same house. But that's not the cost of the house. My house has now doubled in value. So I would be paying $10,000 to live in the North Valley of Los Angeles in a working class neighborhood.
Right.
If it was today. So how can someone afford a $10,000 mortgage payment? Literally $10,000. I'm not exaggerating. I've run the numbers. So my house right now, if I were to buy it today, the mortgage payment that I'm paying is $2,500. But if I were to buy it today, it would be $10,000. Is that insane?
There's no way. I just spent. So I was like subletting a buddy's place over the summer, and that ended. And so in September, I had to find a new place. So I spent 2-3 weeks looking for apartments. I mean, 1-bedroom apartments are $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
And you're not even getting any equity. You're not even getting anything for that. Like studio apartments are $1,800. Like I saw studio apartments for $1,800, no amenities.
And this is happening across San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle, Austin. The prices have gone skyrocket. New York, large cities. And so,
but we should say, and folks, put it in the chat, because even though it's not even the dollar amount, it's the percentage it's gone up. But even people in smaller town, Omaha, Milwaukee, Columbus, Ohio, whatever the rent used to be $600, now it's $1,000, and the wages there are lower than they are in California, New York.
So the wages are going up, but it's at 2 to 3%. So if inflation is 10 to 15%, and you are making a 2 to 3% raise a year, or 5%, even a 5%, which is considered a very large raise, you're getting further and further and further and further behind. And this is where I start to get very, very angry. Is I don't mind paying taxes, Graham. I love to pay taxes if I get something in return, like healthcare, like some type of product or service.
Clean streets, all that stuff.
Exactly. But I don't want to pay for multiple proxy wars. I don't want to. I mean,
but Janet Yellen said we could afford 2 wars. Janet Yellen said, if she says it, I feel better about it.
I feel better that Janet Yellen says that the U.S. can definitely afford to support 2 wars. I think the average person And I just want to say, Graham, I relate to the average person. I am actually not the average person because I own a home in Los Angeles. That's not average.
Right.
So I would say probably statistically, I'm in the top 10% because I own property in Los Angeles. And I'm still like struggling
Barely getting
by, and my husband and I both work. It's not like we are, making big money, like, making it rain or whatever. We have normal, I work and do comedy and I have consulting work that I do. He works in IT. So it's not that we're like, making, seven figures at a hedge fund or whatever, but we are struggling to pay the $7 a gallon for gas and we drive a Prius.
We have one car.
And we have one car.
They have one car that's a Prius. And you can find gas, some that's under $6, but more than likely you're going to be paying close to $6 a gallon or more in Southern California.
Yeah. And again, I actually don't mind paying taxes if I'm getting some type of product or service for it, like healthcare or whatever, clean, streets or drinking water or whatever. But what's happening is I think the average person is paying, $100 at least towards these proxy wars. I think I saw a statistic that says the average family pays $90 a year to the sugar lobby. Like there's all these like, the sugar interests in America. So it's like, there's all these like special interests. There's all these like weird, factory farming lobbies and other like weird subsidies. Sorry, I want to reword that because I don't want some like nitpicky person. She said it wrong. $90 a family towards the sugar subsidies that go towards the sugar
subsidies.
Yeah, sorry.
Makes sense.
Sorry, don't get mad at me. So I said the right thing. So yeah, so there's all sorts of weird tax incentives that we're giving to like big sugar and like wars and like other things that it's like, how did this even happen?
Yeah. And then you sit there and you drive through Los Angeles or any other city. I mean, I just moved into a nice building with a pool and a hot tub and all these amenities, and it's nice. And 2 blocks away under the freeway on both sides is tent cities and people just in abject misery and filth. And, the city sets up like a place to wash your hands or whatever. And they've got mobile showers, but it's like unreal. And Los Angeles, like a lot of big cities, is very similar to the federal budget in the sense that like Los Angeles Police Department gets 54% of the city's operating budget. And what is it going for? Military grade equipment. I mean, up armored vehicles. I mean, like what is and it's $3.1 billion a year. Yeah. For $3.1 billion for a city. You would think there'd be no crime ever. Like done. The crime's over in Los Angeles. And instead it's like, because that money is so misallocated and it's just to harass the homeless. And then again, this is beyond just the government problems, is these on every street corner in Los Angeles. And this is true in other big cities in America. There's a new fancy high rise being built right next to a tent city. And it's like, you've got these hedge funds. And this is again, why our government is so corrupt. These hedge funds have gone out and they started doing this after the 2008 crash, buying up properties, and either the people that were facing foreclosure or short sale, they bought those up. So they've deliberately kept units and housing off of the market to drive up the rents. So they're deliberately, they're manipulating the market. And it's so maddening. I'm seeing new buildings all over Los Angeles. You'd think that rents should be dropping. If we released every unit, condo, apartment, house, put them on the open market, the rents would come drastically down. But they're deliberately inflated and we're all just being squeezed. It's nuts.
Yeah. And well, this goes back to what we were originally talking about. Sorry, guys, we went on a tangent. Is why is crypto important? Why is Bitcoin important? And it's important because it is a digital asset. It's a way to hold value. It is very volatile right now because of the fact that it's still in its infancy. It took, it's a brand new digital monetary system. So it's not going to be perfect overnight. But the majority of, first of all, I don't like to do price predictions, but I do think that it's going to go to the moon in the next few years because of the fact that the US dollar is collapsing at a very alarming rate. And also, there's a lot of mainstream adoption, specifically in South America, because a lot of countries in South America have had this currency collapse. They're like 10, 20 years ahead of us with currency
they've
collapse.
had 40% inflation.
They've had 40% inflation. And so they're like, ooh, this is scary. And so the USD was always the safe haven currency. And now that the USD is, and I don't mean USD coin, I'm talking about the US dollar, is actually collapsing pretty quickly. It's scary. And people are like, we need a safe haven currency. That is not going to be a petrodollar. That's not going to be.
Oh, God. Yeah. And the BRICS countries are Iran and Saudi Arabia have joined BRICS. So now there's this huge economic bloc, and they're not being elitist like America and NATO does. They're doing stuff like anyone can join BRICS. Anyone can join it. And so it's like Iran and Saudi Arabia have buried the hatchet. They're all agreeing we're getting off the petrodollar.
Yeah.
Like this is going to, I mean,
This is crazy. Yeah.
this is crazy. I wanted to show actually, there's a couple things I wanted to show before I get into that article, since we're talking about, I brought this up yesterday on my live stream, but it's worth talking about again. What Jamie Dimon.
Oh, my favorite person.
My favorite. We love JP.
My favorite person that said Bitcoin is a scam, yet he's hoarding Bitcoin.
Yeah, he's hoarding it. So JP Morgan CEO warns the world may be facing the most dangerous time in decades.
Oh, thanks for letting us know.
Thanks.
As you hoard Bitcoin in your golden tower, literally.
Yeah, he's hoarding Bitcoin. This thing 5 years ago, he was like, Bitcoin's horrible. And now he's like, I own a lot of it. So yeah, he basically said the escalating conflict, meaning Israel and Gaza, are far-reaching impacts on energy prices, food costs. This is everything we're talking about.
Everything we're talking about.
Energy prices, food costs, international trade, and diplomatic ties, he said, as JP Morgan Chase, America's largest bank, reported earnings for the latest quarter. And just take a guess. Do you think they had a good year or a bad year?
Good.
What? How did you know that? Net profits at JP Morgan jumped 25% to $13.15 billion in the 3 months to the end of September. That's just this year. This year's not over. And because revenue at the bank rose 22% to $39.87 billion. They also, don't forget, back in March, took over First Republic Bank after the whole Silicon Valley Bank thing, which failed following weeks of turmoil in the banking sector earlier this year, and helped drive net interest income for JP Morgan Chase.
Can we talk about what's really, really scary, though, with the crypto markets and the Bitcoin markets, which is that I would consider myself an independent because I both political parties scare me for different reasons. And
why? They're so great.
But
one's like fascist, and then one's like fascist with a rainbow flag.
I do have a lot of progressive views, however, and it really scares me that people that I really, really used to look up to, like Elizabeth Warren, are so bought by Wall Street. It's not even funny. She has made it her mission to go on an anti-crypto, anti-Bitcoin crusade. I don't know if you've seen the most recent tweets from her.
What has she said now?
She's just constant. It's constant. It's to the point where I'm like, are you and Jamie Dimon having sex? Like, what's going on here? Are you guys having an affair? Like, what is happening? And, I started doing some research because I really liked Elizabeth Warren. I really, thought she was great. I was like, oh, she's like a female Bernie. And I was really excited. And the strength at which she has been defending Wall Street is just mind-blowing. It's insane. It's actually insane. And then you start looking at things like, publicly available documents about net worth. And you're like, well, I thought she was just a professor. How many millions is she worth?
Right.
Wait a minute. Where'd she get that money from?
Remember that when going into the 2020 election, they were like, Bernie Sanders made $1 million like selling his book. And everyone was like, oh, Mr. Socialist made $1 million. He's like, yeah, I made $1 million. And yet not a peep about the fact that Liz Warren, Nancy Pelosi, and other Republicans as well, Republicans, Democrats, are worth tens. Nancy Pelosi is worth $100 million. That's all from insider trading. It is the most corrupt. Our government is so corrupt. Both parties are bought and paid for. And it's
it's just really sad because she's claiming to be out for the little guy, and everything that she's saying about Bitcoin and the crypto markets in general, she pointed to.
Let me just say this real quick. Any politician that gets money from which is like 99% of them, saying they're out for the little guy, that's just the tip of political statements. just Liz Warren's just gonna put in the tip, just the tip.
It's pretty bad though. So now her crusade is that Bitcoin and crypto are funding Hamas. And
I did a story on that. I did a story on that. That's been so debunked.
It's been debunked.
Hamas in April said we're not taking crypto anymore, not Bitcoin anymore, because we don't want to be tracked. Right?
That's exactly why Bitcoin and crypto is so awesome, because you can track the wallets on the ledger, on the public ledger, and it's transparent. And so Liz Warren is now on this crusade. She's been tweeting about it. It's been in the news that even though it's already been proven that, less than 4 or 5% of the donations were through Bitcoin and crypto, that's the dangerous percentage, and it's very dangerous. And crypto and Bitcoin, I mean,
it's more trackable.
It's more trackable, but that's not the point. The point is why is she on this weird crusade? Why is she? And you have to think, who benefits if the little guy doesn't know about a decentralized banking system where you are in control of your own money? Jamie Dimon, the Wall Street bankers. And so then you start wondering, why is Liz Warren, this allegedly person for the people, so obsessed with anti-Bitcoin, anti-crypto? So then you start following the trail and you're like, wait a minute.
And gee, let me guess. So crypto is financing Hamas. What could the solution that these leaders would provide? Would it be a central banking digital currency that we all have to use?
That's what they're going for. That's what they've been working on for years, even though they said that, digital currencies are dangerous. Now they want this central bank currency that they've been working on to push on everyone. So guess what, Graham? You know how you were demonetized on YouTube? Well, guess what? If you say something the government really doesn't like, guess what happens to your digital FedCoin
they
wallet?
Can just take it. They can just freeze all
Guess
the money.
what happens to your digital FedCoin wallet when Graham Elwood starts chit-chatting about the government and they don't like it?
Yeah.
Boom.
Gone.
You
said something we don't like. We're now just, you're going to open your phone up and, your wallet that you were
It's frozen.
It's frozen. You were forced to use this central banking digital currency, and now they're going to freeze it. Does that make you trust Liz Warren more? That is, again,
it's really, really scary that she's pushing it so hard. And I don't want to sound naive, but I really lost faith in her. And I really lost faith in these alleged progressive warriors
such thing,
who are out for the little guy when the stuff that they're saying doesn't match reality.
It doesn't. There's no such thing. I have no faith anymore. One of the ways I lost faith, I mean, when Bernie just rolled over, he didn't fight hard enough. When I went to opensecrets.org, which is a website I mention often on this show, please go to it. If you ever for those of you who don't know, opensecrets.org, the FEC, Federal Elections Commission, is it's transparent. Any donation $2,000 or more, you have to declare. Right? You can less than that, you can just whatever. But if you, Rosie Tran, give $2,000 to a candidate, you have to declare. And so it's listed. Rosie Tran gave $2,000. If you create a PAC of your company, right? So opensecrets.org is non-for-profit and it's nonpartisan, and it just shows who got money from whom. So go look up, folks. This is a fun one. 2020 defense industry. The top 3 getters. Top 3 getters of that dirty war money. That's why I love having a comic on the show live. It's better than Skyping it, because you just make fun of me for saying getters. Like we're talking about all this serious stuff, and then only a comic would go getters. Get that more money. Get her done.
The collapse of the U.S. democracy. Get her done.
Get that central banking digital currency, boy. So the top recipients of defense money, in the 3rd position, $800,000, Bernie Sanders. Yeah, there's no Santa.
Sad.
Number 2,
sad.
It's so sad. Number 2, Donald Trump, 2.7 million. Number 1, Bernie was 3, D Trump 2. Number 1 at 3.1 million. Who do you think it was?
I don't know.
God. Joe Biden.
Oh, okay. I don't know. It seemed like you were going to throw a twist in there. I was like, who is it?
Who's it going to be? Linda Ronstadt.
I don't think that's a good idea. Hickenlooper. I don't know if that's a good idea, because he probably forgot he got it.
But my point in this is, I want to say this real quick, that whenever someone says to me, oh, these parties are so different from one another, I go, look what they gave to everybody. They hedged their bets. They gave a bunch of money to Liz Warren. Anyone they thought had a shot. Those top three had the best shot at the White House.
So they got that defense money.
They got that defense money. I mean, Trump and Biden got essentially the same amount of money.
I like how the defense industry had more faith in Bernie Sanders than Joe Biden. That's scary for Joe.
I mean, they gave more money to Biden than they did to Trump by $400,000. So that, like that is like, what does that tell you? That's why Janet Yellen's like, well, we can afford two wars.
It's so sad. It's so disheartening.